Hey all, Joey here. I'm going to be making a little input today to treat some of the pests we're starting to deal with in our goddess garden. It's first week in June, starting to get some of our veggies and some of our herbs and different plants in the garden. And we have a lot of different things munching on the garden. Because we do a lot of chopping and dropping and heavy mulching and have a completely organic system here, we have a lot of different insects and slugs. And because, like I mentioned, we do all that chopping and dropping, we're creating a lot of biomass that's going on the ground. There's a lot of shredders and decomposers that are needed to come in and start breaking that stuff down. One of the big ones around here are the roly-polies, the pill bugs. So they come in to do their function, and they'll sometimes climb up in different cannabis plants and different veggies and all types of plants. And at night especially, and they'll eat some of that stuff. So different types of IPM we can do for these different types of things. We get a lot of slugs this time of year. If you flip this mulch over, you'll see slugs. Um, and they usually come out at night where they won't be eaten by birds. And I'm going to turn the camera around and show you some different types of damage. Here's an area with some potato plants. These look like slug damage to me. Getting a lot of slug damage. So what else? I saw these have a couple holes in them here. I saw some damage that was kind of looking like these white spots there kind of look like a cucumber beetle damage. That's also kind of what those roly-polies look like, this little bit of white spots there. But you can see, like I said, we have a lot of this heavy mulch. If we pull this back, let's see what's in here. There's a happy worm. There's one of these roly-polies that I was talking about. There's a slug. You talk about living soil. Here's your living soil. Those pill bugs. Ooh, look at that big spider. All kinds of exciting stuff under here. A lot of those pill bugs. So what we do for those is a yeast trap. Simple, basically a beer trap. You can put beer out in a little tuna can. A low, shallow tin can is ideal. Bury it up to surface height of the top of the can and put a little beer in there. And the slugs and the pill bugs, they love those traps. So they'll go right to those. We'll be setting those in the next couple days. If you don't have beer, you can use a little bit of brewer's yeast and a little bit of sugar. A pinch of sugar and a pinch of brewer's yeast will do it. So we're going to make a homemade herbal solution. It's based on a JADAM herbal solution, a natural pesticide. So yeah, this is a recipe for a homemade pesticide and fungicide based on the JADAM herbal solution recipe out of the JADAM book. But we've discovered through our several years of using this that we have better results mixing a few of these plants together. And if we mix plants that we know are a pesticide and plants that we know are a fungicide together, we can get both effects. So I'm going to walk you around and show you some of the plants that we're going to use, and then I'll show you how we make this. So this is the first plant we're going to use in our battle against pests. This is a native mint here. It's very sweet. It smells great. Very invasive, spreads by the roots. This whole bed here was covered, completely overtaken from here all the way to the other side of that first fig tree. About 30 feet of bed that we're trying to reclaim right now. We just shot a video about it the other day. That's some of it popping through right there where the where it's burst through the sheet mulch. You can see some of the roots underneath there trying to bust through. We chopped and dropped them. We laid down a good layer of cardboard, which you can see right there, and then a heavy layer of wood chips, and then a heavy layer of straw, and been keeping it wet. It's probably going on 10 days now, and in another few days we'll start planting it. We'll cut some holes in it, and we'll dig some holes back in the straw and the wood chip. We'll cut a hole in that cardboard and dig our holes for the full terms. But this mint, you can see it's coming up along the edges of the bed where the straw didn't cover. So we're going to cut this mint back. We're going to use this as the resource as it is, and use it to battle these pests. What are some of the pests we've seen so far? You know, these things are only a pest when they become out of balance and we get a large population of them. But so far we've seen some aphids, mostly around our nursery greenhouse during some hotter times of the last couple of months. I'm seeing some cucumber beetles. I just squished one a couple of minutes ago, and some of the damage looks like cucumber beetle damage. I'm seeing these little brown tan bugs called leaf hoppers that hang out near the tops of the plants and actually suck the saps out of the plant and can stunt the growth and cause mutant growth near the tops of the plants. And I'm seeing a little of those, so those are all things that worry me. I've seen grasshoppers down here in Lake County, and we had just the wettest winter ever down here, really wet winter, so I'm expecting a lot of healthy populations of insects, with some dominating at certain times than others. So we're going to do some preventative spraying. The other thing we're spraying for is gophers and different ground animals, ground pests that we might face. Moles, voles, and gophers, which we've had a little bit of damage of. They seem to like these Jerusalem artichokes, which are a good trap plant. Potatoes as well. Better that they eat that than your expensive, valuable cash crops. So Jerusalem artichoke is actually the next plant that we're going to use in our JADAM herbal solution. Or we don't really call this a JADAM herbal solution because it's not a traditional JADAM herbal solution. In traditional JADAM, they do one herb at a time, one plant at a time. We like to combine multiple plants together. So we just call it an herbal solution. But this Jerusalem artichoke will be the next thing that we use. I'll thin some out along the path here. I'll thin some out of this dense stand where we don't need all of these. I'll try to pull the tuber out as well and get some of the tuber, the leaf, and the stem in there as well. And then I'll show you our third punch that we're going to add to this 1, 2, 3 knockout punch concoction. And here is the third plant we're going to be using in our 3-part pesticide and fungicide solution. This is the curly dock, or the yellow dock. This one's totally going to seed. I'm going to use these flowers, a bunch of these leaves, the stems. This is my tea bag that I've got going on right now. I've got the Jerusalem artichoke on top there. I've got a bunch of the mint on the bottom. There's the mint. And yeah, it's just getting enough that I can fill up my crock pot. So we'll thin this out. This is our fungicide. This works great on powdery mildew, on botrytis. We do a lot of companion planting, so we end up growing a lot of plants that can potentially harbor things like powdery mildew are pretty common on. We've already seen a little bit on one variety of calendula that we were growing in our greenhouse, in our nursery. And yeah, so just something to be aware of. Kale can be something that carries this, broccolis and cauliflowers. Often you'll see powdery mildew on your veggies, and it can spread to other more valuable crops in your garden. So the curly dock is a really common plant. in a lot of gardens here in Northern California. Grows near riparian areas. This is a sorrel over here, also going to seed. It looks very similar. Leaf's a little different. This is actually a salad green that we eat. This comes back here every year. Curly Dock, sorrel. You can see the leaf is pretty different. So I'm going to cut some of this up and then we'll head over and get our herbal solution going. All right, so now we've got our herbs together in our tea bag. About a pound of herbs here all together. I've got them in our crock pot. Nothing special about this crock pot. Same kind of crock pot you'd make your chili in. I've got a weight here I'm going to put in here just to hold this down. This is full of water. Put a big flat rock in there. You could even put it in the bag with your herbs. I'm going to put a lid on this. It's important that you put a lid on this and you keep the lid on this the whole time this is cooking. This is going to keep all the essential oils in there. You don't want those burning off. If you open that lid up, a lot of those are going to escape. So we're going to keep this covered for the whole time this is going to cook. And now all I'm doing is turning this on high. Turn this on high for 5 hours. Using a crock pot, 5 hours is plenty. If you're making this on a stove top, gas or electric, you'd want to bring this pot to a boil. You're going to then turn it down and let it simmer for about at least 4 hours. 5 hours is better. And then we're going to jar this up. We're going to get to the bottling process, which I'm going to come back and show you in about 5 hours. So stay tuned and we'll see you then. All right, now we're ready to jar up our herbal solution. It's been 5 hours. I've got a couple tools that are going to make this next step a lot safer and a lot easier, these big rubber gloves, because the next step is going to require us to jar this up while it's still really hot. I've got a little funnel here. I've got a measuring cup. Going to make it a lot easier to pour this. I've got my jars, which normally when you're canning, you would sterilize your jars. You can go through that process, but we found that as long as we fill this up while it's still really hot, I've still got this on high right now, and turn this jar on its side immediately and store it on its side, that'll sterilize the jar as long as this is hot enough. So remember I told you, keep this lid on while this is cooking. This lid has not been removed at all for the last 5 hours. So we're going to take this lid off now. This smells really nice with all that mint in there. I'm going to remove my weight that I used to hold my bag down. Take that out, put that aside, and I'm going to remove my tea bag. Let it drip, 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 and drip out a little bit. It's really hot. It's a good thing I'm wearing these gloves, or this would not be possible right now. But see, I'm letting a little bit drip out, and then I'm going to put this in the bucket there and let the rest of this drip out. But I'll be able to start jarring up this liquid fertilizer now, this herbal solution, this pesticide and fungicide. So got my funnel, got my jar. These are 16-ounce jars. This is going to allow me to make 4 gallons of pesticide and fungicide at its most concentrated. So I'm filling these jars up all the way as full as I can, and then I'm putting this lid on it, immediately capping it and turning it on its side. You can see that jar is on its side, and that's going to sterilize the jar. One other important thing I forgot to say when we were first making this, it's important to use soft water whenever you're making these herbal solution pesticides and fungicides. The reason we do that is when you use hard water and you spray it on a leaf, it pools up into droplets, and it won't evenly coat the plant's leaf surface. When we use the soft water, it actually evenly coats the plant, the leaf surface, and will help suffocate the pests. So you saw I just filled it up, turned it on its side, and these will store for over a year at room temperature. And when you open these up to use them, You know, use what you need, and then you can store it in the refrigerator for about 72 hours, about 3 days before it's going to go bad. So we like to make this in smaller jars. You can see we're putting this in a 16-ounce jar right now. And like I said, that's going to make 4 gallons. So we're spraying about 4 gallons at a time right now to do the whole farm as we're doing our preventative sprays right now. So I don't need to make huge batches. I don't need to jar it up in huge amounts, gallons. But yeah, at its most concentrated, we'll end up spraying this at about 30 to 1. And if you had a fog sprayer like an atomizer, you could spray this at even concentrated, more concentrated dose. You could spray this at 30 to 1. And we're going to be spraying this at 30 to 1. So our 16 ounces here will make 4 gallons. 4 ounces per gallon basically is what that works out to, that 30 to 1. So this will last us quite a while. Didn't cost us anything to make it other than the little bit of power we used to run the crock pot here. Kind of low. But we also have some in the bucket that's going to drain out of there. So we might get 1 more jar, maybe 2 more out of this. But this is a very easy pesticide and fungicide to make, and you can make it and use it the same day. Nice cool day like today, cloudy. You could spray this stuff every hour on the hour. That's how safe this stuff is to spray. Let's see how much more we got dripping out of here. Do we have enough to fill this last jar? Maybe. Close. I'll squeeze a little bit out of here, and hopefully we'll have enough to fill up our 6th jar. So this will make 6 times 4. This will make 24 gallons of pesticide and fungicide. We're using about 4 gallons a week. This will last us about 6 weeks right here. And we used plants that we would have been thinning out of our beds anyways, and chopping and dropping anyways. All available on-site resources. No money was spent. And so yeah, there's your herbal solution, pesticide and fungicide. We're going to turn this off. We're going to rinse everything out, put everything away. Like I said, store this on its side in a cool, dark place. I'm going to bring this up and stick it in our shop where our temperature stays a little more stable. And yeah, we'll be spraying this tomorrow, probably early morning or tomorrow evening. This stuff is so safe. You don't need protective gear to spray it. We'll wear eye protection, more just to keep anything out of our eyes. But yeah, very safe. It's gentle on your beneficial insects. It's hard on your soft-bodied pests, and hard on your fungus and botrytis and powdery mildew. So that's your herbal solution, pesticide and fungicide. Peace, y'all.